Well, this certainly is not the best thing that could have happened to the Boston Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. Before we do anything for today's video, we got to show you they say Don Rafaela catch yesterday. It has absolutely nothing to do with today's video. I just honestly wanted to watch it again. Absolutely incredible catch from, say, Don Rafaela. What we are talking about today is some unfortunate news, and that is an injury to the Boston Red Sox that is going to shake things up for this team for a little bit, and what kind of impact that's going to have on the 2025 season. The injury I'm talking about occurred last night when Connor Wong was struck in the back of the hand by a swing from George Springer. I gotta tell you, Connor Wong's one tough dude. He got smacked in the back of the hand with this bat and then finished out the inning with what ended up being a fractured pinky. I can't imagine trying to catch a 95-mile-an-hour fastball multiple times, mind you, in, what was it, 32-degree weather that felt like 20-degree weather. That had to have hurt even with the padding of the glove. So he is one tough dude. He was originally taken out of the game after that half inning where he did finish up playing with what the Red Sox had called a left-hand contusion, yet ended up being a fractured pinky, which was announced after the game. Now, I'm not exactly a doctor by any means. The Red Sox did not give any sort of timetable, but I did look it up on Dr. Google here, and the time frame for an injury such as a fractured pinky is about 3 to 6 weeks. So what we're looking at is losing Connor Wong for 3 to 6 weeks. And yes, Connor Wong was off to a really slow start to the 2025 season. I'm talking kind of painfully slow at the plate. It was 2 for 23, a .087 average, a 279 OPS, and a negative 16 OPS plus, which is about 116% below league average production. He has been the Red Sox least productive hitter to this point in the season. But still, this is a pretty major injury, right? Not only because he ended up breaking a bone and because of the fact that he's going to be missing for 3 to 6 weeks, but also because of the fact that Connor Wong really made some strides defensively this season, or at least it was looking like he made some strides defensively this season. Taking a look at his Baseball Savant page, there's a big difference between what he was doing last year and what he was doing this year. He was towards the top of the league in almost every single defensive catching category. Top of the league in blocks above average, meaning he was really great at keeping the ball in front of him so far this year. Really great at caught stealing above average. He was catching some guys trying to steal second. And his framing, which in my opinion is one of the more important aspects of a catcher behind the dish, was also in the 92nd percentile. We're talking about a guy who is towards the top of the league defensively in terms of catching this season. That's a really, really big change up from what he was doing last year, where he was at the bottom of the league in almost every single defensive category out there. So immediately, despite the fact that the Red Sox, yeah, the bat really wasn't missing a whole lot here, they're going to miss that defense. But also, this is an impactful injury because the Red Sox really don't have a ton of depth in their catching position to begin with, right? You had 3 guys on the 40-man roster who could potentially catch for you. You had Connor Wong, you had Carlos Narvaez, who were both obviously on the Major League roster, and you got Blake Sable, who, according to Sean McAdam of Mass Live, is going to be the guy who comes up and replaces Connor Wong. Sable looked okay this spring training. It wasn't anything crazy good. It wasn't anything crazy bad. It was just sort of an average spring training for Blake Sable with the Boston Red Sox. If you guys remember, he was traded over here from the San Francisco Giants over the offseason. I believe it was just for cash considerations. It really wasn't a big trade. Now he could potentially play a big role on the Red Sox. I will say his start to the 2025 season in AAA has gone pretty well so far. It's only 6 games, but in those 6 games, he's a .250 average, a .400 on-base percentage, and a .350 slug for a 119 WRC plus, about 19% above league average in AAA. One thing that really stood out to me when taking a look at his statistics so far this year is his ability to control the strike zone. He was striking out quite literally as much as he was walking. I mean, quite literally, right? His walk to strikeout ratio was 1. Every time he was striking out, he was walking at least 1 time. I think that's a good sign, right? You're controlling the strike zone a bit, even if it is in AAA. Hopefully that translates well to Major League Baseball, and we got a guy who can get on base pretty frequently. at least a little bit better than Connor Wong was getting on base, right? Now, in terms of Major League experience, it's not a ton. It's 121 games over 2 seasons. Really, it's 121 games over 1 season. He played 11 games last year. It was basically mostly in 2023 where he got his Major League experience, but still, it was a 243 average, a 313 on base percentage, and a 392 slug for a 96 OPS plus. About 4% below league average production, but that's still a pretty solid bat when you consider how productive catchers are at the dish, right? Normally, you don't get a ton of super offensively productive catchers. However, when we're looking at his defense, it's kind of a tale of two cities here. His first and bigger experience in Major League Baseball in 2023. Defensively, it wasn't super great. There were a couple categories here in terms of his baseball savant metrics that weren't exactly fantastic. In fact, they were kind of towards the bottom of the league. Last year, in his 11-game sample size, that was a bit of a different story, and the Giants were kind of impressed with what he was able to do behind the dish. They thought that he had really sort of improved his defensive abilities, so we'll kind of see how that translates over to Major League Baseball. Now, I haven't heard anything about his defense in AAA so far. I would assume it's pretty solid, at least average, right? Or we probably would have heard something about it, but yeah, it's not like this guy's going to come here and be expected to set the world on fire. What the Red Sox need is a solid backup catcher, right? They need someone who could come into games when needed as either a defensive or offensive replacement, and they need someone who could start from time to time just to get Carlos Narvaez off his feet. And speaking of Carlos Narvaez, the one thing this injury does do is present a pretty interesting opportunity for the Red Sox. Carlos Narvaez this season is off to a really great start, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, he's 6 for 18 at the dish in 5 games so far with 3 doubles and 4 RBIs. His defense has also been really solid. He's been above average in almost every single defensive category, and a lot of people were starting to wonder, kind of all over Red Sox Nation, if at some point this season, Narvaez would actually end up winning the starting position role from Connor Wong, right? Because if Connor Wong couldn't figure it out offensively, was still solid defensively, and Narvaez was doing it on both sides of the ball, you want your better player in there to try and win games. And I think a lot of people were starting to get on the Carlos Narvaez train. They wanted to see what he would look like in an everyday role. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we get our opportunity to see that, right? Blake Sabol is going to come up, and he's going to be the backup catcher of the Boston Red Sox. Carlos Narvaez is going to get most of these starts this season in Connor Wong's absence, at least for the next, month and a half here. We're going to see a lot of Carlos Narvaez, and that's a really interesting opportunity for him. Can he get to a point where by the time Connor Wong gets back, a conversation springs up at the bare minimum, right? A conversation of, okay, Wong has been our starting catcher for a few years now. He understands the starting rotation pretty well, right? He's built a relationship with these pitchers, but Narvaez, he's doing it on the field. He's got a solid bat. He's got solid defense. Who do we start every day, or at least a majority of the time? And I think this is Carlos Narvaez's opportunity to show that. He's pretty prepared to do that. He said in a quote from that Sean McAdam article that mentioned Blake Sabol as well, quote, "It's a tough loss for us," said Narvaez, of the injury to Wong. Nobody wants that. Connor has been a very important piece for us. Hopefully he's going to be back soon. In the meantime, while he's out, I'm going to take accountability to help the team win every game. I really like that sort of ideology from Narvaez. This sucks, but we still got games to win, and I'm going to do everything I can to get it done. I'm really interested in this. Before Connor Wong's injury, I said it a couple of times that I'm kind of interested in the idea of creating Carlos Narvaez the everyday starting catcher. Now we get our opportunity to see that. It's a really, really, really unfortunate situation for Narvaez to get this opportunity, but it is an opportunity at the end of the day. And I think the Red Sox kind of understand that and are going to give him the ability to try and win this starting position job. We'll see how it goes, right? 5 games is an incredibly small sample size. In fact, we know how small of a sample size that is and what it could mean for the rest of the season, which is essentially nothing. So I want to see him in a larger sample size. Does his ability to create offense continue in a larger sample size? Is it something that was just sort of a hot 5 games? And can that defense really get to a point here where you're talking about an all-around really solid catcher? If you can, it's going to be tough to put Connor Wong back into that everyday position, and that sucks for Connor because he's not going to get the opportunity to fight for his role, at least not yet, right? He's going to have to just sit there and watch as Carlos Narvaez attempts to take it from him. I can't imagine that feeling, and I feel really bad for Connor Wong. All in all, taking a look at this injury, it is a pretty major one, right? It's a pretty big one considering the lack of depth the Red Sox have in that catching position. And even though Connor Wong wasn't off to a great start, it absolutely sucks to see someone end up sitting on the bench for weeks because of a freak play on a really miserable night. So I'm hoping the best for Connor Wong, and I hope he's back and healthy as soon as humanly possible. I'm really interested to see what Blake Sabol looks like for the Red Sox. I don't have incredibly high hopes, but as long as he's just a average defensive catcher, I think the Red Sox will be okay, especially if Carlos Narvaez continues to play the way he is. And again, silver lining here, this is an opportunity for people who wanted Carlos Narvaez to end up as a starting catcher to really see what he can be as a starting catcher at the major league level. Now, the other roster move that I wanted to talk about actually took place yesterday, and it's kind of old news already, actually. Cooper Criswell was optioned to AAA before the game yesterday, which makes some sense, right? Not only did he struggle a bit on the mound, but he also pitched a ton of innings in that Cardinals series. The Red Sox needed fresh bullpen arms. He made the most sense to send down. In order to bring someone up, they did utilize that trade that happened with Quinn Priester that opened up a 40-man spot to bring up Robert Stock. Now, I say this is kind of old news because Robert Stock pitched in the game yesterday. He threw 2 innings. He allowed 1 earned run. He actually didn't look too terrible on the mound, especially considering it was, like 20 degrees by the time he got out there. But either way, after the game yesterday, he actually made a Twitter post essentially thanking the Red Sox and the fans for their time. It was called it an 8-hour stint in Major League Baseball, which to me kind of indicates that there's another move coming, right? That kind of indicates that, hey, thank you. We needed the Band-Aid. We needed to get the bullpen fresh and up again for the rest of the series. We appreciate your services. You're no longer needed type kind of thing, which could lead to maybe a more longer and lasting impactful move for the Red Sox. My guess is that it's Michael Fulmer. He pitched 2 days ago. 3 days, if he's going to the bullpen, should be plenty of rest to get him up here and ready to go, and maybe in a longer term capacity. So I would keep an eye on that as we get closer to game time here. If there is something that feels a bit more permanent, we will definitely make a full video about it, detailing everything, so keep an eye out on my channel as well. But just kind of interesting to me that it was sort of like a one-and-done type move for the Red Sox, right? Stock comes up, he pitches 2 innings, and then they sort of say, see you later, we're getting someone else in here. Again, I don't know who that someone's going to be, but I do have a funny feeling Michael Fulmer's at the top of that list, so keep an eye out on that. But that is the other roster move the Red Sox made yesterday. So all in all, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about this, right? Kind of a blow to the Sox this early on in the season to lose that kind of catching depth, but is there anything you're kind of looking at in terms of silver lining here? Is it Carlos Narvaez? Is it Blake Sabol? What are your thoughts on the Connor Wong injury? Let me know everything in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.